Forge, Chapter 44. I examined everything that Gideon owned for the next morning when he drove Isabel to her duties at Mrs. Shippen's. He possesses 3 blankets, 4 fine shirts, 2 extra pairs of breeches with expensive knee buckles, and a blade for shaving his face. I found nothing that gave an indication of his character, no cards or gaming pieces, nothing for praying or for sport or for remembering someone far away. The only curious thing was a letter, folded small and hidden inside his second-best breeches. Mrs. Cook once asked Gideon to read a page of the newspaper to her when Isabel was busy. Gideon had said that he could not read, or I couldn't either, so I had no idea what the letter contained, or who sent it, or why he would have such a thing. I carefully folded it again and hid it back in his breeches. After that, I kept track of the amount of time that Gideon spent on errands to headquarters, or to the market stalls, or Sullivan's Bridge. More than half the time he tarried, sometimes returning much later than he ought. He was never spoken to about this. The gentleman and Mrs. Cook all assumed he was doing the wishes of one of the generals or aides to His Excellency. As his real master was a day's ride away, there was no true accounting for his comings and goings. I suspected he was courting a girl, one of Lady Washington's maids, or a girl who worked for one of the regiments because her father or brother served in the company. I hoped it meant he was courting a girl, for Isabel was becoming too familiar with him. She allowed him to stand disrespectfully close when they talked, and laughed when he tried to be funny, though he's never said a single clever thing. I was beginning to loathe all things about Gideon. Winter returned with a bitter vengeance on the 22nd day of March, 37 days after Bellingham stole my life from me. Congressman Dana and Folsom refused to let that thick ice on the front road from the front of the Moore Hall interfere with their plans to leave for York that morning. Gideon and I wrapped a rope around our shoes to give us a better grip on the ground as we carried their trunks and boxes to the wagon. Though normally a strong enough fellow, Gideon struggled with his end. He coughed heavily and shook with chills, and when I was warm enough from our exertions to be sweating. "Have you had the smallpox?" I asked him. "I do not have the smallpox." "You look sickly to me." Gideon ignored me. "Go upstairs and turn the mattress in the Greens' bedchamber. Make sure Isabel has dusted and cleaned the windows." He paused to cough some more. "I'm off with the wagon to collect their belongings. If the room's not ready when I return, the blame is yours." General Nathaniel Greene and his young wife were moving into the empty bedchamber. General Greene was taking over the quartermaster's general position and would be in charge of purchasing and delivering the food and other requirements for the army. By fetching their belongings, Gideon was wasting no time assuming the role as the general's manservant. After I turned the mattress, there was wood to be split, manure to be shoveled in the barn, and all manner of chores requested by Mrs. Cook. A fat-nosed junior officer delivered a message for Bellingham mid-morning and said he must be instructed to wait for a reply. I'd been so busy that I'd lost track of Bellingham, and I did not think that he was at Moore Hall. He was not in the parlor or the dining room. "They said he was here," the lad insisted. "I can't go back without a response. I'll wait in the kitchen." I took the stairs 2 at a time, determined to prove that the fellow was wrong. I opened the door of Bellingham's bedchamber without knocking, so certain I was that the room would be empty. I was wrong.
Burke, please come to the office for a message. Abby Burke to the office, please.
Bellingham sat in the chair, a towel tied around his neck and his face well soaped on one side. Isabel stood next to the chair, lathering the brush in her hand. Bellingham was not pleased. "Since when do you enter my chamber without knocking?" "Apologies, sir," I said hastily. "A messenger has come from General Varnman. He requires that you write a reply." "He'll have to wait then," Bellingham answered. "I'm in need of a shave, and Gideon won't be back for hours." "I could have helped you, sir." "I did not want your help," Bellingham motioned to Isabel. "Finish this side, please." She dipped the brush in the soapy water, then leaned over to rub it on Bellingham's face. "Shall I fetch water and a pen so that you can write your reply, sir?" "General Varnum is getting rather full of himself." Bellingham placed his hand on Isabel's hip. "His messenger can wait until I'm finished." "Take your hand off of her, you foul whoreson." "Of course, sir," I said. Isabel set the lather brush in the bowl, her face hard as stone. Since you're here, Curzon, there's mud dried on my good blue coat. Take care of it. He patted Isabel's backside. Be quick, Isabel. The greens will arrive soon. As Isabel reached for the razor, Bellingham closed his eyes, as uh, as was as was his custom while being shaved. He did not see the way she gripped the handle of the blade or the look in her eyes. She was not going to shave his whiskers. She was going to slice his throat open. Two thoughts collided in my mind like cannonballs. That I would cheer when the job was done, and that I had to stop her because our punishment would be swift and merciless. The latter thought carried more force and drove me to action. Mr. Bellingham, sir, if I may. I quickly crossed the room. Isabel knows how to pluck the chicken and shear the sheep, but I do not but not how to shave the face of a gentleman. On the other occasion, it might not matter if your face was nicked or if the patches or if whiskers were overlipped, but it will be today. Allow me, sir, so that you might be at your best, or you might look your best. I put up my hand for the blade. I suppose you're right, Bellingham sighed and patted Isabel again. Give it to him, girl. Then ask the cook if she has any cobbler left. Isabel handed me the razor. The horn handle was sweaty and warm. Bellingham studied her backside as she rinsed her hands and dried them on her apron. I held the blade so that it flashed in the light from the window. May I, sir? Of course, he said, closing his eyes again, tilting his head. What else is being done to prepare for the Green's arrival? I asked the cook to bake up a nutmeg cake, Isabel said. It is said to be Mrs. Green's favorite. Excellent notion, Isabel, Bellingham said. Find out what General Greene prefers on his plate, too. Our interests lie with him now, instead of the congressman. We must do whatever we can to ensure his comfort and keep his wife content. I shall learn all that I can, sir, Isabel said. Good girl. He pointed at his face. Make haste, Curzon. The soap is drying, and it itches.